I'm Jerome Weeks. In the rubble of a military invasion, how do you preserve ordinary life, and how do you preserve a country's art? Nada Shabout is a leading authority on modern Arab art. She's the director of the Contemporary Arab and Muslim Cultural Studies Institute at the University of North Texas. The institute is currently showing a photo exhibition in Denton called Open Shutters Iraq. Nada, welcome to Think.
Thank you.
Now, Open Shutters Iraq is not an ordinary photo exhibition in that women had to be trained to be photographers in Iraq. Could you explain?
Well, actually, it was a project that the London-based photographer Eugenie Dolberg initiated. She's been doing this kind of work in other zones of conflict places, and she wanted to do the same with Iraq. And she wanted to take, she had several, funding from various NGOs and the UNESCO, and so she wanted to take women from Iraq, train them in photography, ran a workshop on photography, train them so they can actually then go and document their own life stories. The idea was to give a different sort of, vision to what's happening in Iraq that is more intimate, more personal, more humane than media sort of, larger conflict war. So ideally, she wanted to go to Iraq and train the women there, except, of course, situations didn't allow. So she rented a house in Old City in Damascus, which actually kind of helped the whole procedure because it took the women out of their zone of conflict into a more comfortable zone where they could relax and they could actually bond. There were women from 5 different cities in Iraq. They varied ethnic and religious backgrounds, some actually, in conflict at the moment. And so it was really interesting to see them bond. And while this was happening, she was teaching them how to actually use the camera to their own advantage to document and to map out their life stories. It was all being documented by the also London-based film director, Maysoon Pachachi, who actually ran an independent film school in Baghdad. She started it in 2004.
Now, I was expecting in Open Shutters Iraq images of personal loss, family trauma, that sort of thing, and of course there is some of that. But I was struck by the story of Raya about the loss of a street, a kind of vital part of city culture. Could you talk about that?
Well, actually, that is a loss that has affected many Iraqis on various levels, particularly intellectuals and artists. Mosul MB Street, this is a bookseller street historically through the Ottoman ages, and in fact there are the Ottoman buildings of government were there, but also the cafes where all the artists hung out and exchanged ideas throughout the modern history of Iraq. And there was a car bombing, and the whole street was actually destroyed. And because actually, when I was in Baghdad, for instance, in 2003, and went to the Mosul MB Street, because of no electricity and heat, so mostly the books were outside on the street as opposed to inside. And they had stuff in the store, but it was really difficult to go and just kind of go through the books. So they actually had samplings or what they deemed more important on the street itself. So all of that, there was just sort of a bloodbath of books everywhere, as well as people, of course. Yes. Yeah.
Well, considering Open Shutters Iraq, it's a little ironic that your own book, Modern Arab Art, doesn't deal with photography much.
Yeah.
What is the status of photography as an art in the Arab world?
Well, of course, the Arab world is a very large place, right? So, it's not the same, it's not equal everywhere. But, it developed as well as it developed everywhere else, but because, for instance, in Iraq, the fact that, photography requires equipment, and particularly as technology progresses, that means more expensive equipment that were not available in Iraq, particularly during the 90s with sanctions. And so they had cameras, there is photography, there is tradition of photography in Iraq, throughout the 20th century, but as an art form didn't develop much because, as in relation to painting, for instance, and sculpture, because of lack of the equipment as it was getting, sort of more advanced. But the irony is, after 2003, there's a lot of film and photography that is coming out of Iraq because all of a sudden the equipment are available, technology is available as well.
Another major project of yours has been documenting the 8,000 artworks that were lost from the Modern Art Museum in Baghdad. This isn't the National Museum, which housed the antiquities. Right. You're not necessarily trying to recover these artworks, just simply catalog them. Why?
I gave up on trying to recover because I tried initially trying to recover them, but there was a very short window of opportunity. In June 2003, when I was in Baghdad, I was told by someone, actually, if I had $50,000 in cash, I could have probably retrieved a lot of those works.
They were looted, and they were still in the city.
Many of them were still in the city. I mean, you know, the conspiracy theory goes, I mean, a lot of it is really true, but this had happened in all the museums, that key works were smuggled out actually at the eve of invasion. So by, you know, inside job, by some sort of, you know, collaboration, same as that happened in the National Museum. But then 2 days after the invasion, actually, there was, when I was there, for instance, I was told that it was bombed and burned. Well, it wasn't bombed, but it was burned, and it was looted. And so they smashed a lot of sculpture, cut a lot of painting. You know, sometimes they took the wood as opposed to the canvas, and sometimes they just used it for utilitarian parts. But the key works, you know, left. And in fact, now, a year later, I mean, it used to be that someone would sell you a truckload of work for $4,000, for instance, that, you know, is in somewhere, or, you know, some masterpieces were actually found in the flea market around Baghdad. But a year and two after that, you know, they understood the power of it, the value of it, particularly as, you know, you started seeing some of these works by famous artists like Jawad Salim, Shakir Hassan at Christie's and Sotheby's, and so all of a sudden the value goes up, and so then they were also smuggled out. So I see them. I see them in Jordan, I see them in London, I see them here in the U.S., but, you know, there's not much to do. So I have to revert to documenting, because actually you can't do anything, even to stop the trafficking of it, unless you have a way of proving that these were the property of the museum.
So the museum, the museum had no catalog, or it was lost?
It was lost. So there was an archive, but we're talking old school archive. So this is not something, you know, completely full with images and everything, but rather a lot of, you know, receipts, which is great. You know, it proves provenance. So that would have been very useful. But that disappeared and only surfaced 2 or 3 years ago. So now I'm very suspicious even of it, because with the trafficking, with the looting, with the forgery, you know, there's a big mess to sort out things. So trying to document as much as possible, because you know, realistically, there's just no way I can document the 7,000 to 8,000. Actually, no one really knows exactly how many, so there is that problem, because I've heard various numbers. So that becomes one of the difficulties of trying to at least even document that. But it's very important to document them. Yes, because it can become a document for authorities to stop looting, but also for, you know, for research, for scholars to be working on modern Iraqi art, which is, you know, something that is not available at the moment.
Quickly now, how are you able to do this outside the country?
Yeah, well, you know, there are not many artists inside of the country anymore, so many were in Amman, Jordan for a while, so I made that my base of operation, but now they're everywhere. A bunch of them are here in Texas, actually, Iraqi artists, and so I'm based on their memory. I was able to actually find the photographer of the center and bought some hard copies from her, but also, you know, found some CDs that were filmed in there. So it's a lot of tedious work, but publications of the Ministry and of Culture and of the museum from the 80s and 70s at least tells me, because these were the official work from the Iraqi government, so they at least tell me that those were the works that were in the museum for a fact. But there is always going to be a doubt, you know, that these are probably works from the museum. I can't prove 100%, except for the artists who are still living who can tell me, yes, those are my works that were in the museum.
You planning to put this catalog online?
Yes, actually, we had an NEH grant, and it's a collaborative work between the University of North Texas and Alexandria Archive Institute in Berkeley, and it is Modern Art Iraq Archive, so where it will be released in August.
Thank you very much, and good luck with the exhibition.
Thank you.
To see images from Open Shutters Iraq and the Lost Art of Baghdad, go to artandseek.org. Chris?
Thanks, Jerome. To access our free podcast, you can go to the Think page of KERA's website, kera.org/think. And we'd like to know your thoughts on the show as well. You can email us at think@kera.org. My name is Chris Boyd. Thanks for being with us, and have a great week.
To learn more, go to kera.org/think. Think is made possible in part by Del Perot Systems. Del Perot Systems develops and delivers a comprehensive suite of IT and application services, business process solutions, and consulting services designed to help customers succeed. For more information, you can visit Dell.com. By Southwest Securities, a nationally recognized regional brokerage firm that's been meeting the needs of Southwest investors for more than 30 years. Southwest Securities is a member of the New York Stock Exchange and SIPC. By the Executive Education Center at the University of Texas at Dallas, providing degree and non-degree programs to help corporate professionals and executives stay ahead. On the web at som.utdallas.edu/executive. And by the valued support of KERA members. Thank you.